And thank you so much for joining us today to talk about pranic healing before and after surgery. I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of people who don't realize that energy healing and particularly pranic healing can dramatically shorten recovery times, dramatically decrease pain. And so many people do have surgeries and there's a lot of suffering. So before we go into that topic, would you say a little bit, Stan, about um, you as a pranic healer? Like, when you found pranic healing,
Sure.
what you've been doing, just as a little bit of background and what pranic healing is.
Yes. Well, I had done many things prior to pranic healing, yoga teacher, shiatsu, Reiki, etc. And then around 2019, Allison was doing a talk at the Awaken Center. At the time, it was outside of Doylestown. And she said, I was doing a talk on pranic healing. And I said, I know what that is because I happened to have taken a few classes back in the early 1990s when I was studying shiatsu. And Master Ko came and they were traveling around to introduce it, I believe. So I said, this is great because I was looking for something at this point. And I ended up doing all the classes. Allison did the first, brought everybody in and took all the classes. And then I got very interested during the pandemic. We all went online, which was actually kind of good because we were able to take some courses online. And then I did take the year-long Associate Pranic Healer training, it's pretty comprehensive where you have to do a number of healings, both serious and not so serious. You have to write them up, etc. And during those years, I had some surgeries myself, and I've had a couple knee replacements. And after the second knee replacement, I would almost every night listen to Twin Hearts meditation with self-healing at the end of it, and that would help me a lot. And so, when I was taking this course, one of my friends who lives up in New England said she was getting knee replacement. And I said, well, I have a protocol for before and after surgery. Would you like me to experiment with this? And so what I found is it's really helpful to do about a week or so before surgery. I would do 2 or 3 sessions before surgery. And there is a protocol for major surgery. And then I would do about 2 weeks afterward, 3 times a week. And what happened was with this particular person and then somebody else who had a ACL surgery, their healing happens much faster. And they would go back to the surgeon, and the surgeon, or they would say, "Wow, you're doing really good. You're ahead of schedule." So obviously, with surgery, the idea is how fast you can recover from it. Once you're going to do the surgery, the idea is to help with the recovery. And so, like I said, I think it's a good idea. In the protocol, they recommend doing it before surgery and after surgery, and I think that's a good way to do it. And then, see how people respond to it. But I think for the most part, you'll find that people recover much faster. And I think that's the main benefit.
Stan, have you worked on anyone who needed surgery and because of the pranic healing, either the surgery was they didn't need it or it was pushed out or
I
reduced?
haven't had that experience yet. Mostly people are calling me when they scheduled the surgery already.
Mhm.
So yeah, I haven't had that particular experience. But as I as I was telling Allison recently, I had another experience which is great as well. And whenever, first of all, you have to be careful as any kind of healer that we cannot promise to heal somebody, particularly of a serious condition or long-term condition. It might be, I say it's an experiment and I may be able to help. Let's see what happens. And that's the way I approach it. It's an experiment. But I was in touch with a very old friend of mine from college, and I happened to be thinking about her, and I said, that's odd. I haven't thought about her in a long time. And I called her up, and she had had two strokes and open heart surgery. And I said, well, I'm involved with pranic healing. And I tried to explain it to her a little bit. And I said, would you be open to me doing any healing for you? And she said, yes. And I've been working on her, sometimes in the pod and sometimes on my own for about the last 3 weeks. And she's like astounded by how she's doing. Now she still is in physical therapy, but she said that she's not dragging her right foot anymore. She only uses the walker. She probably hardly even needs it anymore. And and she was feeling some heaviness in her chest from I guess, the open heart surgery, and she said she doesn't feel that anymore. And so it's great to get that kind of feedback because we don't really, it's very hard to tell sometimes if we're having an effect or not unless we can get the feedback from the people. So that's what I have found that it's very helpful. As far as a really serious long-term condition, I have a friend right now that I was going to ask Allison, we may be able to put in the pot. He has Parkinson's disease, but these are the kind of things where they had to be willing to go for like a year. And are they willing to do Twin Hearts meditation? Are they willing to participate in the healing? And so I think that's for the more serious conditions, that's a big, big thing, and it can make it go faster. Now, this for the stroke victim, she was listening to a version of Twin Hearts meditation, and of course that helps because it's bringing in so much energy. So I think to do it, you have to do it both ways. Get them involved and get them to open their spiritual cord, and then for us to kind of influence their energy field. That's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Have you had pranic healing yourself before a surgery or around a surgery?
I didn't because I didn't really know about it at the time, but I did it. I like I said mainly. Actually, I have to say, my wife was doing pranic healing for me recently when I was sick. Like a regular cold, and it really helped. Of course, I had to say, "Can you do it today?" Because it's the shoemaker. But I used it afterward. I would listen to the tape because at the time Dava was not trained pranic healer. My wife wasn't trained pranic healer at the time. But by doing it for other people, I see the value can really help with recovery. And that's what you really are looking for in surgery. But yeah, most people are going to have some kind of procedure, I would call it, in their life, and it's just such a valuable thing. And yeah, it's great to do, and you don't need to be that proficient to have an effect because we have the protocols. Just I just follow the steps, and it seems to work. That's my point. The feedback is that people are ahead of schedule in their healing, and they feel it because they're thanking me. They can really feel something going on. And even after the stroke victim, after the first time I did a healing, she said, "I feel so peppy." She was very shocked. She wanted to know how it worked. I said, "Quantum physics." That
That's
was my answer.
that's a good point that you don't have to be like super proficient. Even though you've done a lot of healing, even newer healers can do the pre and post surgery protocol and
Absolutely.
have really good
I think
results.
that if you do beginners and advanced, and you're using the colors, of course, you're going to get more effect, I think, than just basic. But, if you do those two, that's really all you need to really have an impact on someone. Yeah,
Yeah,
the crystals are fun, but Master Hector doesn't even use crystals. He doesn't use them. So and some people are more sensitive in their hands than others, so it depends on the individual which works better.
yeah, yeah.
Ildiko, you've done a lot for your family, haven't you?
I did. I had some experience with a shocking experience actually. One of the shocking experience was when I did the certification program, Zoltan, a friend, mother was at the hospital, and she almost died. She was a critical condition, 4 days. And she said, I just need, he said, the son said, I just need a miracle. And you're the last one who I can. Because my mother is older, 4 days, critical condition. Can you try to do something? So I asked what was the problem. I followed the protocol. And I did like 3 times a day, the protocol, because I
Oh,
know I did that 3 times. I asked for the picture. And end of the day, they put her down in the floor. And, yeah, I had another one. That was that person needed the heart. This is all from the certification program. So I would say if thanks to Alison because she said do the certification program. So because I was very shy, I'm not, but in the certification program we have to do major cases
right. Right.
and she uh, leg, a swollen leg. And I was healing that patient like 3 or 4 months. And she did not need the surgery, the heart surgery.
Wow.
So that honestly, in my 10 years since I'm doing that, this was two of my biggest cases.
Right. Well, you see that took 3 or 4 months, and that's the other thing. Somebody has to buy into the fact that it's not magic, and they had to be willing to go along. Now, as Allison knows, I do have a miracle that I did not do, but it was pretty early on, and it was a few years ago now. My son and his girlfriend were in a serious car accident. His girlfriend, they got in an accident on 95 outside of Philly when they were standing outside the car, and another car came along and hit her. She flew up in the air and hit her head on the median. It was at nighttime. He called me up and he was hysterically thought she was dead. So I immediately called up my Kim Sayer, who was my teacher at the time. Kim called up Master Glenn, and we all three of us did pranic healing for her that evening and stopped the brain bleed. And the next morning they came around and they said she had hurt her heel somehow. She says, we don't normally do this quickly, but you're doing so good that we're going to do the surgery the next day.
Yeah.
And we think that it saved her life, really, but we had 3 levels, beginner, advanced, and Master Glenn. And but I just had the feeling to call Kim, and she was willing to get in touch with Master Glenn, and we all did it. And that was probably the most severe case I've ever come across. That emergency case. And yeah, so I was fortunate to have that at my available. It was really unbelievable, actually.
That's a huge one. That's a
Yeah.
huge one. And she's good now. I mean, she's kind of
Yeah,
fully
she's
recovered.
okay. When you have traumatic brain injury, there are side effects that last. But yeah, she has a normal life. She works. I think that she has some carryover headaches and things. But I tried to do some healing for her, but she really, see, this is what happened. That was an emergency, right? But after that, I did some healing for her, but she wasn't really that interested. Do you know what I mean? She didn't really want to participate, and it didn't really go anywhere after that. And I think that happens. It's so much better when someone is at least interested, or like the person that had the stroke, she wanted to know about it. I said, okay, here, look at this, read this book, or, do the Twin Hearts meditation. Yeah, I mean, it can have an effect, obviously, in emergency, even if, like what you did, even they don't know anything. But if over a longer term, it's much better if they get involved in some way. You know, I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, if they're receptive and if they're
Yeah,
open, if they're willing to accept the healing.
Absolutely. And then there's another level that we're not in charge of, where some people get healed and some people don't, and we're not in charge of that one. We can only do our best. And then, that's why, for many years, because I did other kinds of healing, the healer has to be detached from the results. Sometimes it's hard if you know the person or it's your family, but it's like I studied mediation the same way you have to step back from your own, can't try too hard. You have to just do it and then let it go.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. And some people are better at than others. So just it depends on your personality.
Are there any type of surgery cases that you think lend themselves particularly well to pranic healing, or don't, conversely, or don't? Maybe either mild to severe,
Well, it
or
seems like these orthopedic cases work pretty well. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Because that's not affecting like, it's not heart surgery or organ replacement, it's structural. And so the person around it, they're not actually sick. Do you know what I mean? And so I think it's probably a little easier to have an impact because they're not suffering, unless they have other things like if they have diabetes or heart disease or, some other like really big condition. It seems like that would be the easiest kind of surgery of any kind where they're healthy otherwise, but they have this one particular thing that, that's going on. And so you don't have to deal with multiple issues, you know.
yeah, I agree. And we've had great cases in the healing pod of people who have avoided knee surgery. We worked on them for torn meniscus, different things, and the surgery was avoided altogether for these
That's
localized
incredible.
kind of issues.
Yeah, that's incredible. Seems to work with the orthopedics. I don't know why, but seems to be
Yeah,
very amenable to that.
yeah, that's a good point. Did you see the post in our Facebook group from Bargavi about the patient who was scheduled for surgery and enlarged prostate, and
No,
after a series of pranic healings, surgery not needed anymore?
no. And I'm always interested as how many sessions it took to get the effect too. I think that's something that we should be able to post or because it helps to know, is that going to take 2 or 3 sessions or it took months or, how long did it take to get that effect
How long has it taken for the cases you've worked on?
for the surgery?
Well, like just, yeah, for the pre and post surgery, just to reduce the
It's,
pain.
it's only a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's good to do it like a week or so before a couple sessions, which is recommended. I would say 2 or 3 weeks afterward is all you need. But here's what I found with surgery. When does the surgeon tell you to come back to see him or her? That's when you're going to be feeling good. They will not see you until they know you're going to be feeling good. In between, physician's assistant gets the complaint. So if the surgeon says, I'll see you in 6 weeks, that's what it's going to take. 4 weeks, because they've done thousands of them. They know exactly, not exact, they know generally how long it's going to take to recover. So I always tell well, when did the surgeon say they want to see you? That's kind of the recovery period. And then you can work on them during that period.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
You
questions, comments, anything more for Stan? Kelly, Ildiko.
So I am completely new to pranic healing.
think?
I'm a Reiki master, but I've never heard of pranic healing. Can you explain what all goes into that or try to summarize it?
Stan?
Allison, well, I was also I did Reiki for many years and studied it in the 1980s, really, with Ethel Lombardi, who was one of the original women. But Reiki is great for just bringing general energy, healing energy in. But this was developed by Master Choa was an engineer as well as a very highly developed person, and they experimented on hundreds of people by observation. And so pranic healing is much more specific. And we have protocols that he developed for specific conditions, etc. And you can follow those protocols. We we mainly are what we're doing is cleaning, energizing, and balancing. And we focus on the chakras mainly, but also on the organs. So it's a little more in depth. And I think that we've had a lot of people that have done Reiki that have bumped it up to pranic healing and felt it was like the next level of energy healing. And of course, there's tremendous number of different types of energy healing. And just it's somehow if you're exposed to it, do you know what I mean? If it comes into your consciousness, then maybe that's the next thing to do. Yeah, I practiced shiatsu and Reiki for many years, and I found that pranic healing and I still do Reiki occasionally. You know, particularly for my cat. You know, just put my hands on it, or but this is I would say that it's another level up from Reiki. It's very focused, and you really learn to focus on the person's energy field. So yeah, Reiki's great. It works, but you know, we do specific things for specific problems, and it seems to be very helpful.
Is there a specific certification you recommend?
Well,
Or is
there's
there only
classes.
one or
No, well, there's basic classes, and that's what Allison teaches, a basic class.
okay.
There's like four basic classes. Then after you do enough of them, you can take a year-long certification where you have to do so many healings, and you have to record them in a certain way, and they're reviewed, etc. But anybody, even taking a basic class, you can do it. You can use it right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there can be amazing healings just in that very first class, that 2-day basic pranic healing class. And then some people will go further. They'll take the next level and the next level, which are just another couple days. And a lot of people, once they start kind of getting a feel for it and they see what it can do, that's when they go on and they take the next class or two. But you can actually do so much just with the basic techniques. And there are a lot of pranic healers all over the US, all over the East Coast. Uh,
That's another thing that's unusual about this group. It's international, which is high. And so, you know, sometimes Alice and I will do a Twin Hearts meditation every Friday morning at 11. We'll have people come in from everywhere in the world. I don't know how they do it, time zone, but and so it's that's another unusual thing. There are people from all over the world, and there 7 or 8 master pranic healers right now in the world,
hey,
and
yeah,
and they're divided up. They all focus on different region, so that's a little unusual as well. And right here on the East Coast, Master Glenn, he was a neonatal surgeon for many years, and he retired recently, and he runs the certification programs anyway. Yeah, so you can go online, and right now you could find we do Twin Hearts meditation is the main meditation. You can go on YouTube, you can go online, and it's going on every day somewhere. Something's going on all the time, all over the world, right?
that is for sure. That is for sure. Yeah, that was one of the things actually that made a big difference for me with pranic healing, that the community is so strong and there is a lot that you can do and online on Zoom. You know, you don't have to travel, and people do travel, but you don't have to. You can access it online, and that just made it so much easier.
Yes, it's been about 40 years now, right? Something like that, that they've been active in the United States, I think, since the early 90s. I think that's when they started to come over here from the Philippines.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just been getting sort of stronger and bigger and more ever since then.
And then I will say that, you know, during the pandemic, they started these healing pods, and Allison runs the local one, and How many people did you work on during the pandemic? Hundreds of people, right?
Hundreds. Yeah.
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 Yes.
That's made a big difference also.
Mhm. So there's a big commitment also for being of service, so the healing pods we just work on people that either we know or recommended but it started with the pandemic. That's where it started because they felt that it was so widespread that people needed help.
Yeah. And a lot of those healing pods are still active.
Mhm.
There were almost 70 of them at the height of the pandemic. I think there were 68, 69, something like that. And when things opened up again and people started going back to work, some shut down, but quite a few are still going, like ours. And
Mhm.
we still work on very serious cases, very serious cases.
And there are books, right? There are books that you can get to read and the other thing that I know you told me once, but there's the research site. Maybe in the chat you could put the research. So they're doing a lot of scientific research now on pranic healing, which is, that's what people want anyway. To legitimize something, they want some kind of research. So they've been doing that, and Allison's very involved with that as well.
Yeah, there's pranic healing research going on all around the world. The website that I put into the Zoom chat there has links to research papers from different groups. It's pretty comprehensive. But yeah, there are some very strong groups in India and the US, some others in Europe, kind of all over that are doing research, pranic healing in different conditions, different aspects of pranic healing, and they're publishing in peer-reviewed medical journals. So it's pretty impressive actually what they're doing. So Stan, any final thoughts on pranic healing for surgery?
Not really. Just the idea of doing it before and after, I think, is very helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences.